I see Sunil.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Circle of Global Business Women's conversation around the fourth industrial revolution and women in business during and after the COVID-19 pandemic through innovation and mindfulness. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Kim Padudi, and I sit on the advisory board of the National Youth ICT Council. I would like to introduce our wonderful speakers who have joined us today, starting with Ms. Cindy Mzamo, who is the president, wonderful Ms. Cindy, the president of the Circle of Global Businesswomen, Ms. Amy Ashworth, who is the general manager of the French South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms. Joshna Nagar, who is the head of the ICT in the Circle of Global Businesswomen, Ms. Angie Maloka, who is the senior manager at the MTN Foundation, Mr. Sunil Jinis, who is the chair of the Global Government Operations. Well, sorry, Mr. Sunil's title is so big. Okay, let me get that right. So Mr. Sunil, who is the director of the Global Government Affairs and CSR, Global Sustainable Lead at SAP Africa, and the chairperson of the South African BRICS Delegation Working Group, Mr. Sunil, and Ms. Sibongile Mungadi, who is the 4IR Committee Chair at the National Youth ICT Council. So today we're going to be speaking about the impact of the COVID pandemic on businesswomen. As a businesswoman myself in the ICT space, we've faced a number of challenges, and the challenges spanned globally. On the 11th of March, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 as a global pandemic. Ms. Cindy Mzamo is going to be giving us a global overview of the impact of the pandemic in economies, markets, businesses, as well as in the lives of business women. As we know, women are marginalized in many economies and many countries, and it is up to us to make sure that women come to the rightful place of ownership, economic emancipation, and empowerment for generations to come. Ms. Cindy Mzamo, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Program Director. Indeed, it is a great honor for me today to share the platform with gentle giants who are actually coming from different sectors of the economy globally in the continent and South Africa. And I'd like to actually say good afternoon to our African brothers and sisters, and some other parts of the world is good morning. Program Director, Cabinet Ministers globally, Captains of Industries globally, and South African ambassadors in foreign countries globally, our dearest sisters that have been supporting us in the Circle of Global Businesswomen, and the foreign ambassadors in South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us in to acknowledge His Excellency Ariel Lecheval, the French ambassador in South Africa, who is actually the key sponsor for the Circle of Global Businesswomen, diplomatic corps, and also the representatives of UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in South Africa and globally, and the advisory board members for the Circle of Global Businesswomen, the board members for the Circle of Global Businesswomen, and also the Africa President for the World Women Leading Change, President Debbie Raputi. Thank you very much for joining us in this session. I'm really excited. This is really a topic which is very close to my heart as the president for the Circle of Global Businesswomen, because COVID has taught us one thing, that we are a global village, and our challenges in the globe, we must actually collaborate to solve such challenges. And hence women are actually participating in this platform to come up with a solution that will be able, Program Director, to collaborate with our governments globally, to collaborate with our private sector globally, and to collaborate with our men colleagues globally. And hence we have our dearest brother Sunil Jinis, who is actually the only gentleman in the platform. And there's a reason why we're actually having him to be the only gentleman, because generation equality, it says we must involve men, and men must lead, the women leadership program within the corporate environment, in the society, in the community. Then we can say the future is a woman, because we know that our male colleagues are supporting us in the environment. Our global women, men, and strategic partners, as I've said, that it is indeed a great honor for me to participate in this platform and also talk about the fourth industrial revolution and how it's going to change our lives as women in businesses. I thank the French Embassy, the French Chamber of Commerce, SAP Africa, ICT Youth Council, and the MTN Foundation for making this event a success. It is indeed a success because, Program Director, transformation is about collaboration. And hence, all of us who are here today, the Circle of Global Business Women is an NPO. I mean, the SAP is a company, and ICT Youth Council is actually, facilitated by the South African government to make sure that young men and young women are mainstreamed in the ICT sector. And I would like to actually thank what I see in this platform today. And the Circle of Global Business Women is a really a network of intelligent, innovative, women who are authentic in their endeavors and creating a leadership shift globally. And we support the rise of women in global markets. And hence today we're in this platform giving a global perspective of what it is and how the pandemic has affected women globally. And what I can say at the moment to all women that are sitting in this platform: women, you are bold, you are beautiful, you are brilliant. There's no other woman like you. As you are sitting watching this platform, you should know that there is no other woman. You're just one of your own kind. And these are the affirmations that remind us of who we are and what we have overcome sitting in this platform. I mean, if you look at where we come from with the pandemic as business women, and the Circle of Global Business Women believes that as leaders, we must play a role to lead in this changing, Program Director, and unpredictable world. And that is the only way out of mediocrity and the highway to growth and greatness, because we believe in greatness as women because we are great. And in this recent decade, we have made a significant strides towards gender equality, including the private sector. Women's increased participation in leadership and business has proven essential in driving economic and financial performance. But today, the impact of COVID-19, of the pandemic, has threatened those hard-won gains in the women's, sector, and also talking about gender equality in the workplace, in the community. Gender-based violence has increased, and access to sexual reproductive health has been compromised. An estimated 11 million girls will likely be forced to leave school before the end of the pandemic, with potentially devastating consequences. And hence we are here today in this platform. Where do we go from here? How do we become innovative through fourth industrial revolution with collaboration of government, private sector, and NPOs to solve this pandemic, the challenge that we see that is going to affect, young girls, because they are the future leaders of tomorrow. And women are also the worst affected in the economy. I mean, if you look at the fallout of current, crisis, they are more likely than men to own micro businesses and vulnerable businesses in the informal sector. They are far more likely to shoulder the burden of unpaid work, and they are less likely to have access to assets and financial services. This is a reality of women they are facing. And also particularly concerning the trend towards female participation in the workforce. Women are made up of the 39% of global employment, but account for 54% of overall job losses during COVID, Program Director. In the United States alone, more than 600,000 women left the workforce only just in September, just 1 month, compared to only 78 men. This reflects a market factors and increased care burden falling disproportionately on women. And the recent research on the United Nations Development Program, which was actually conducted by the United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and Empowerment for Women, and also in partnership with the Pade Center for International Futures of the University of Denver, shows that by this time next year, 435 million women and girls will be living in extreme poverty. And we want to say no to this platform, because I think we are capable as women to solve such problems, to solve such challenges, because we need to understand where the problems are sitting globally and come up with these solutions. And hence we're having this webinar to discuss those challenges, Program Director. And also by 2021, we're already in 2021, the findings indicate that for every 100 men aged between 25 and 34 living in extreme poverty, there will be 118 women living in extreme poverty. And what is the role of the fourth industrial revolution? What is the role of innovation? How can we use these two factors in the economy to solve the challenges that are being painted globally? The impact of COVID-19 also in women threatens the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, which hinders our work towards more inclusive, resilient, and also gender equal sustainable societies. Indeed, the women's long-standing inequalities hold back progress in all of the goals. And as the World Bank has shown, the global economy between women and men, narrowing the gender gaps in the business ownership and leadership will go a long way towards generating a stronger and more sustainable growth. And we have seen that when women succeed, they invest a lot in their families and also communities and contributing towards the poverty reduction. And I think that's very important for us, Program Director, to look at these initiatives and come up with a strategic overview. I mean, one good example, an impactful response is the Women Entrepreneurship Development Program of the International Labour Organization, the partnership that empowers emerging and existing women entrepreneurs who want to do a startup and run and grow businesses. It helps them to succeed in their own ventures, which is tend to contribute more inclusively and resilient in the marketplace and in the economies. And I think this is very important. But what I want to highlight in this, program that the ILO is actually, running globally with the UN Women, what we have discovered is that it's only 19 countries that have launched this targeted gender equality to help businesses to set and meet ambitious targets for women representation in leadership, starting at the top. And I'd like to challenge the global fraternity, global governments, global captains of industries. Let us take the empowerment of women seriously and make women lead in these corporations, because women, when they lead, they make sure that they lead with dignity and integrity. As the Circle of Global Business Women, we launched on the 15th of April, which was last month, and just a month ago, today on the 15th of May, we're sitting in another platform, whereas we are talking about, how do we lead during the pandemic and after the pandemic? Because there's future. What I've discovered is during the launch, if I can share this, and then I close, Program Director, and hand over to you. We met a powerful young woman. Her name is Hunze. Hunze is actually was a beautician before the pandemic. And then when she was retrenched, she didn't know what to do. But you know what? There's something called the Blue Ocean Strategy, where you don't have competition in what you do. And that's what innovation is all about. Hunze decided to actually go back to a skill that she was given by her father, where she is actually using nails and wool to actually do your art. Hunze today, she's got orders globally. This is what pandemic has done. to other women in business, to other entrepreneurs in business. There is life in the storm. So arise and shine in the storm and make it sure that you perform to the fullest. And why I'm saying that, Program Director, we need to actually make sure that when we are in crisis, we are mindful. And mindful is about thinking positively in your workspace, adapt to change. I didn't know to use Sunil. I didn't know to use Zoom. My first global webinar was a disaster. But today I can speak with confidence. Today I can smile to my, audience who is actually sitting in their homes watching at me to say, I've learned something. And I thank COVID. I mean, with the Circle of Global Business Women, we opened offices on the 1st of July during COVID. And today we're sitting with a membership. We're talking about women entrepreneurs. We're talking about corporates globally. We're talking about strategic partners globally during COVID. So we didn't sit back and fold our arms. Yes, there's power in the storm. So arise and shine, women, and make sure you take your rightful position and occupy. Refuse to be turned down on an opportunity because you are powerful inside. Let the light in you shine and take your rightful position in the marketplace. With those words, I'd like to say to my audience at home and in your offices globally, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to actually talk to you as the president for the Circle of Global Business Women. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you so much, President. That was a brilliant delivery and such valid points. Speaking on collaboration, the only way we're going to transform any society, any challenge, any hill that we are facing is through collaboration. And that is why we've got a diverse panel here today to share their insights and find ways that we can collaborate for solutions. To do what? To give women a platform to use innovation and mindfulness to sustain themselves during COVID and to innovate and rise up after COVID. So I want to share a note. The fourth industrial revolution was defined by Professor Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum, as a fusion of technologies blurring the lines between physical, digital, and biological spheres. He said it involves adopting technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data, machine learning, robotics, 3D printing, the Internet of Things, as well as advanced wireless technology. And as we look at the whole sphere of the fourth industrial revolution, it no longer needs to be a buzzword. It's no longer a vision of the future. We are living in it right now. Looking at this webinar, looking at our audience who are watching from the comfort of their homes, through their devices, through connectivity, it is only possible because of technology. So we need to use that technology to bring innovation to the forefront and allow women to lead, empower them, and give them opportunities to be growing themselves and their businesses sustainably. So the next session we had due to COVID, we all remember the lockdown when it initially happened. It was a shocker. Everything stops. Connections, ships stopped taking cargo, airplanes stopped. Everybody just had to pause. Restaurants closed immediately, and everybody had to pause, not knowing what the future holds. I would like to hear from our wonderful speakers in their spheres, the kind of challenges they faced and how they were able to innovate in order to sustain themselves and grow through the pandemic. I would like to first hear from Ms. Sibongile Mongadi, who is the 4IR Committee Chair at the National Youth ICT Council. Thank you, Ms. Sibongile.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sibongile, you're audible.
Oh, thank you. Greetings once again. I go by the name of Sibongile Mongadi. Indeed, I serve as a committee advisory under the Youth ICT and also as a founder of a company known as Ukuhamba. So Ukuhamba is actually an African word meaning mobility and also meaning to walk. So what we actually do at Ukuhamba, we actually produce your cost-effective and durable prosthetic limbs to improve the living condition of amputees living with disabilities. So this was actually how Ukuhamba was funded. It was through a personal experience where one was able to actually engage with one of the MPT in one of the south of the Johannesburg hospital when MPT was not able to access a prostate limbs. So instead of one seeing that as a problem, but then one was able to actually come up with a solution, because what one was understood on that date was that lack of resources, lack of skill in the health sector, and also not usage of advanced technology to fasten the turnaround. Instead, MPTs wait for more than 4 years to access a prostate limbs. So that's how actually Muhamba started about thinking of innovative ways, as much as my colleague Kim was talking about the 4IR, embracing the 3D printing technologies and all that. So that's where Muhamba took that advantage. So we are actually using advanced technology, which is a 3D printer, to produce these cost-effective prostate limbs so that they can be accessible to our people instead of them waiting for that 4 years. But with us, they are able to access this in a period of a week, 2 days, and also in a period of a month, depending. And also what we also understood it was the lack of resources in terms of material. Then they rely on exports and imports. Then that's where we also came about using eco-friendly materials to actually produce this. So everything it's custom made. We actually cater according to an MPT specification. So that's a little bit about Sibongile and also about Uhamba. So we are actually in the biotechnology and healthcare manufacturing. So just to honor today's mandate, um, like we all know that we're not prepared, or we're not ready as a whole, well, with what we actually faced with. We never knew that we would actually experience something that's called COVID-19. But then the overview impact and also challenges that female entrepreneurs, like including myself, that we actually went through or we are faced with, is that we all know that female entrepreneurs always have always faced strategic, structural and also societal obstacles. For example, the expectation that they will assume the majority of the household's caregiving duties while they work, or the decreased opportunity they have to secure sufficient financial support from the bank. So, and also like looking at the stats as well, it also shows that it's only 1/4 of female entrepreneurs have employees, meaning most female entrepreneurs don't have employees in the companies. So eventually, being an entrepreneur as a female, it's very hard. So those are some of the challenges that we actually faced with. But also, more than 50% of female entrepreneurs work in the wholesalers and retailers trade, for example, which suffered greatly decreased the demand due to the shutdown. As a result, quarantine measures made in-person shopping impossible, reduced the possibility to make sales. So those were some of the challenges that we were actually faced with. And also some of the actual threats that we actually were faced with as like women. It's that the challenges that is the economic impact of the pandemic has suffered to a greater degree by women, and especially by female entrepreneurs. And that reflects as a distant gender roles and unequal access to finance that women have historically experienced and continue to experience even today in year 2021. So the some of the threats that we actually is that businesses run by female entrepreneurs may be especially vulnerable during times of crisis like this. And then there's less likely to have reserves of capital demand on when income is low. So it has been hard, especially when you are a female entrepreneur. But one of the innovative solution is that we actually had to teach ourselves to actually adapt or diversify, and also collective actions within communities. And then that's how we were also, as Muhamba, we are able to actually redirect our company core business focus. And that's where we are able to actually produce your PEE to actually help frontline workers using our advanced technology, which was your 3D printer as well. And also we're using this recyclable bottle 2 liter to actually create or build face shields so that they can actually use. And we're also using like your laser cutter. That's how we actually also enhance the, the usage of advanced technologies. And also we are able to actually produce this face mask as well, and also contacted lens thermosensor that were actually used to different schools while kids were actually allowed to actually go back to school. So in closing, it's just that we do know that we were all faced with something that we're not prepared as especially as entrepreneurs. But one would actually encourage that this was not the ending. But I think this COVID-19, it's also one of the lessons that we should also take, is that it also fostered us, or it actually taught us to restructure our business model. Let's look at it and try to see how can we actually best, improve or increase our sales despite of what we are actually faced with as globally. And yeah, in closing, I just want to say it's all possible. If I can do it, you can also do it. I'm just a young female from the township of Soweto with lack of information, lack of resources, but we are actually using what we actually have to actually improve the living conditions of others out there. Be that creating those facials, be that creating the low cost ventilators, be that we are producing prosthetic limbs. But we, one way or the other, we're actually using these advanced technology and also digital technologies to improve people's living conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bongile. That is a powerful delivery. Thank you so much. This panel is absolutely power-packed. I'm absolutely honored to be here and very inspiring. Indeed, on the other side of a challenge is definitely a big opportunity. So it is up to us to be mindful about the way that we view things that present themselves to us. It is up to our perspective to make a reality of what we see. Reality is only really perspective. And I really believe that impossible is nothing. I would like to hear from Ms. Amy Ashworth. Being in the French South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, you guys represent, you're a body that represents organizations and businesses. And I would like to hear what you guys experienced and how innovative solutions came about at the start and during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone here. It's a privilege to be amongst all these strong women as well, and men. So thank you very much. As a program director said, I'm Amy Ashworth, and I'm the general manager of the French South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Quite a mouthful, but essentially we're a business platform that aims to provide business support to our companies. It's a completely open network, not just for French companies. Our focus is very much situated here in South Africa, with 50% of our members being South African companies, and it is also evenly split between your big multinationals and corporates and SMEs. So really, I think for us, the COVID-19 has been a particularly interesting period, just from seeing the challenges varying from big corporates to SMEs, entrepreneurs, most of them being women as well, facing these challenges. So I think it's very important and a privilege today to be able to have this conversation, this engagement, and also just to be able to have the opportunity to brainstorm, okay, how can we as organizations, us being very similar to the Circle of Global Businesswomen, and as representing corporates as well, what is their responsibility, and us as individuals, and of course as women ourselves, and how can we navigate these challenges. So I think you said particularly well, we've had this term of the fourth industrial revolution from that 2016 mark. And I think in South Africa, particularly this came to the forefront around 2019. So right before COVID-19 hit us, which I think is quite a pertinent in terms of timing. And of course, the setting up of the Command Council by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I think really what the 4IR, in my perspective, it's really just refers to how there is a collapse of these boundaries, whether it's physical, digital, or biological. It's really this collapse. And I think it's also interesting to contextualize this globally as well, if we're looking at sort of this lack of legitimacy in the democratic project as well. We see this all over the increase in these wicked problems. And really, I think this is the time, I think maybe the time was before, but this is a really urgent time to be saying, okay, what can we do? And I think it's something that's been spoken about. I see it from our corporate members, 5-10 years back. Okay, what are we doing? How are we transforming? How are we looking to that future? What role does technology play? But I think really now all of us have said, okay, COVID-19, it just threw us in it, and what do we need to do? So really that sense of adapt and die. And I think women particularly are very resilient We know what the challenges are. I mean, a lot of them, there's that increase of automation, which is going to routinize a lot of occupations that women are in. We have the labor market, which already favors man. We have that digital divide. I mean, we know this across Africa in particular. It favors men in that. And then, of course, just basic everyday as women having to adapt to working online, being at home, having those responsibilities and less time to sort of maybe upskill ourselves. So I think we know these kind of issues and we see them occurring. We see their men struggle, particularly within our network for women entrepreneurs in particular. But also what I think we have noticed as well is, and this I think will be my reoccurring sort of theme throughout today's discussion, is the power of collaboration. I think as a business platform or a chamber of commerce, chamber of commerce is quite a historic and old kind of world, from the early gentlemen's clubs. And I think what's really important now, and I think we've seen that within our organization, is really this transformation. And that comes from, the agenda being set by our members. And what is quite interesting in this is that we see this great power of collaboration, which I think it's been accentuated during this COVID time. I mean, if we take it in two parts, we can look at within our network, the big corporate side of it, saying, okay, we have this issue, COVID-19 has brought upon us, what can we do? And really, I mean, you can take examples from some of our companies. For example, GL Events owns Nasric, building a field hospital. Air Liquide is a company who has oxygen. Okay, let's help supply oxygen. It's fantastic. We have a construction company that came in and helped GL Events. So really, it's seeing what can be done, and also in a very short amount of time, which I think the issues of 4IR are always based around policy. And I think it's an important one to tackle. And how do we bring in women inclusively in the policy space? But it's also what it has shown is that we can get things done quite quickly by utilizing and bringing together the resources, particularly on the women's side as well. Of course, from our side, we were very, very busy during the COVID period, just scrambling one-on-one to assist companies, to assist entrepreneurs. A lot of it is access to information, particularly for women networks, not necessarily the skills part of it is very important, but just how do I have access to the resources to do this? How can I take my things online? And I think women just came to us, and from that period, of course, we have now signed an MOU with the Circle of Global Businesswomen, which we're very excited about. We have a partnership with Women Creating Wealth, which is part of the Graça Michel Trust. We have another partnership with just a whole bunch of women entrepreneurs called Work in the City. So really, all of these things are just happening quite naturally, and I think it's a good sign. It's a sign, particularly of women, to when they see a problem, to come together and to really, I think, what we need to do is work on how we can be, as organizations with its corporates, but particularly us as these sort of non-profit, how can we broker this knowledge? One, in terms of skills development. Second, in terms of expertise sharing, experience sharing, how we can bring this together. And most of all, how can we impact and include this within the policy landscape that is not just written down, but is really thought out and is brought to the fore in the everyday lives of women. I think that is a really significant one. We can talk about education. I mean, there's a lot I can say about primary education, what we can be doing, but also a lot of this is reacting right now. How can we take women who are in the informal industry as well, but also in the corporate space, and be able to upskill very quickly, but also provide that access while still on top of that, dealing with the challenges of the system as well, which we all, I'm sure, are very well familiar with. So I think from our side, many, many challenges have been observed, but also I think the key thing is that spirit of collaboration that has really come through, enabled these women and entrepreneurs, SMEs and big corporates to really survive and be able to now really look towards that future as well, but also being reactive, because that future is almost upon us now, being reactive to those issues. So I look forward very much to continue this conversation, this engagement, to see how we can sort of brainstorm and come up with ourselves and work to something prosperous in the future. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amy. Such wise nuggets, actually, that you've shared. And I'm in total agreement. We absolutely need to keep collaborating to see the actual outcomes that we want to achieve. There's one keyword that you shared, which is policy. And policy is important as a basis to establish any kind of movement, any kind of thought, any kind of action that we want to implement in order to create the future that we see. And looking at policy, the National Development Plan of South Africa, NDP 2030, puts women emancipation and gender equality at the forefront. And as a sustainable development goal, the SDG 5 is around gender equality. And the government of South Africa has established a commission for gender equality. So there is an absolute deliberate focus on gender equality. There's an absolute deliberate focus on women empowerment. It's just about the actions that we put in place. And on that note, this webinar is not just a conversation, but we will be, creating projects and, talking about the actions that we'll take post the webinar that can improve the livelihoods of women and empower women in business through innovation and mindfulness. So I would like Ms. Joshna, please, to share a bit of her perspective on the matter, looking at the challenges and how innovative solutions presented themselves during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kim. So my name is Joshna Nagar. I am the chairperson of the ICT committee for the Circle of Global Businesswomen. Thank you for having me today. Being in the IT industry, I think the challenge has always been for IT adoption. So, technology has always scared people away. And I found that during the time, the biggest challenge was actually trying to onboard people in the e-commerce, in online education. And suddenly when COVID happened, it's like the conversation became wider and broader and everyone wanted to know, how are we going to do this? Which was quite challenging for me in terms of just trying to convince people to go online and to start taking their business digitally, to now being inundated with what's the quickest way, the fastest method, and how are we going to do this? What actually came out of it is that we created some awesome solutions in the educational space, where we then created a global e-tutor platform, connecting tutors with training institutes and students, not only in South Africa, but globally. And that's the innovation that was brought forward due to COVID. In terms of the educational, we came up with a management system that was incredible, now managing the entire school system from your admin right down to your student and parent. So the innovations came out of necessity. It came out of passion and inspiration to actually transform education, which we know is also part of, which is the biggest part of our conversations now. It is about upskilling, it's about knowledge, it's about applying that knowledge. Some of the innovations that also came out in the other sectors, because I'm the founder and director of the Women's Chamber of Entrepreneurs, within our space, what we did find is that women were now starting to collaborate even more, especially in the home industries, where one person was delivering, the other was now, they were now taking all what they were producing, putting it onto one platform and seeing how can they take that forward. And like Ms. Sibongile, some of them also went into who were doing trophies in education, and that side now started laser cutting masks and trying to sort of reinvent their businesses. So COVID on the one hand has thrown a lot of challenges and obstacles to us, but as women, I think we've actually grabbed it and we've taken it to the next level in the space of collaborating and actually becoming really creative and innovative in our space.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joshna. Absolutely wonderful to hear. Necessity is indeed the mother of all innovation. It is when we find ourselves between a rock and a hard place that we decide perhaps the hard place sounds softer than the rock, so there should be a solution. I would like to then, thank you for that. I would like to then close this discussion on the challenges that women-owned businesses and industries have faced during the COVID-19 pandemic and the innovative solutions that they came up with. And next up, I would like to introduce the gentleman in the room, Mr. Sunil Jinnis, because he has something to share with us that I think is so important on the basis of collaboration, looking at public and private partnerships and how we can use collaboration to foster opportunities for growth and inclusive sustainable development for women. Thank you very much, Mr. Sunil.
Thank you very much. Such an opportunity to listen to the previous speakers, and an honor to be here, part of the network, Cindy, on this very important day and an occasion. And good afternoon to everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. My name is Sunil. And in my day job, I am one of the global directors at SAP, and I have sort of three functional areas. The first one is our engagements with governments across the continent of Africa. The second area I focus on is our corporate social responsibility. And the third area is now the global sustainability across the continent. Now, many of you may have seen SAP's three-letter acronym on Ernie Els's cap, or you may have seen it when we've sponsored some of the motor racing around the world. And in times gone by, pre-1990, we were often confused with the South African police, who are now called the South African Police Service. But SAP is a global software company. Our vision is to help the world run better by improving people's lives. And the whole idea behind that is not just to have it as some kind of a tagline, but to descend that into communities across the world. We are listed in Frankfurt and New York with more than 100,000 employees in more than 80 countries across the world. And we've been in South Africa for more than 25 years. So just thought I'll give you that input. And listening to my fellow esteemed speakers, I think back to COVID and the announcement. I just want us to reflect a little bit about that. First and foremost, COVID was on the TV. We're watching this, watching what is happening in China, and thinking this thing was so very far away from each and every one of us. And as you went to gym and you saw the screen as you ran, and someone would mention this word COVID, coronavirus, and using these words interchangeably. Now we are much more, I think everyone is an expert on that word across the world. It seems so far away from us. And then we had that period in South Africa and Africa where COVID became a reality. And I want each and every one of you to just reflect on that moment in your life when COVID was at its closest proximity to you. Some of you may reflect on it from a perspective of a distant relative. Others may reflect on it on the loss of a parent, or a brother or a sister. And I know this is a somber note, but let's picture and delve our minds beyond that and think through this period that we find ourselves in. Now, within all of that, women and girls have traditionally been, sidelined. COVID has taken this challenge and pushed it even further into the forefront, particularly from a technology perspective. Women and girls have been at the lower end of education. If you look at the number of kids that go to school in South Africa, if you take a number like 1 million, perhaps 600,000 finish high school, the number of girls that go through that process are even further reduced. And then if you look at society, some of the challenges that we found ourselves with during COVID, gender-based violence, particularly in South Africa, it reared its ugly head. Now, you may reflect on this, and there are various forms and ways that gender-based violence presents itself. But essentially, the denial of women to opportunities in the IT sector, per se, from early age groups, telling them things such as math is not meant for you. And in Bantustan education, some of you would understand that. These ideas were pushed upon women. So we're coming from a legacy which has now been accelerated. And the entire concept of COVID has pushed us from a quantum leap perspective of, exposing even further the disparities for women and girls. On the positive side, as Cindy has mentioned, COVID has forced many people to get into utilizing tools of technology. Like some of you have said, with Zoom, and using Teams and using other mechanisms of communication. Now, some of us who have been in the technology space for years These were general ways that, we engage. We run global businesses this way. But to someone on the street, and when I say the street, I don't mean it disrespectfully. I mean for the general population per se, that wasn't a way of working. Going to school, clocking cards, thinking along mechanisms of productivity and work, which was emanated in the 1900s, was the way of things happening. I remember, and I will give you this one example, where I had a heated discussion with the managing director at STP because I insisted I will leave his meeting to pick my child up at school. And at that time, it was considered, you can't leave this office space, etc., etc. But I did it anyway. And, he's still in the company, in another part of the company, and we reflect on these things. But many things have changed in the way that we work and operate. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done just before COVID, during COVID, and now well into the COVID pandemic per se. Now, Nelson Mandela, bless his soul, he often said, if you want to solve a problem, you talk to the quote unquote enemy. The problem is not solved by talking to your neighbor. And if we look at some of the challenges that women experience, women and girls, those problems have been manifested by men. Do I have a yay on that? Right. So I want to talk about one program that we engaged ourselves in around young boys, which is MADA, is an organization that ran it called Boys to Men. And essentially, we've taken boys before the COVID pandemic, put them through a process of technology innovation and understanding of technology. But more particularly, we spent a lot of time with them talking to women, role modeling them around the concepts of women and girls. Now, beyond that, a lot of the programs that we've always implemented, and the one that comes to mind is the Siafunda Technology Community Centers. In South Africa, we have more than 200 of these centers, and we've made it a point to actually have these centers in places of safety. So women could go there without fear or without feeling maligned in any way. Typically in a complex where there might be a doctor's surgery. At the same time, there might be some healthcare facility that might be in that area. And during that process, we put a lot of emphasis and effort in trying to give women, girls and gogos, as we'd call them. We know some of the women that attended these were in their 60s, and they were certified, for example, on Microsoft programs per se, or an SAP program that we may have been delivering. So those opportunities still exist for women. And during the COVID pandemic, we upped the ante on these things to ensure that more women were given opportunities to gain skills, knowledge, and attributes that bring this whole concept of the fourth industrial revolution. I hate that word, by the way. To bring this concept of digitization and moving towards a digital world where our interconnectedness between ourselves and technology becomes seamless, and giving them more experience around that, being able to play with some of the applications and to learn in some of the STEM centers. So we set up a center in Palm Ridge, which is past Alberton, and Palm Ridge is if you look at the apartheid government and how townships were set up, the Black, Indian, and colored were put in one area, and of course, white people in other areas in this country. Palm Ridge is slap bang between a colored township and a Black township. And we decided to put a center in there. And that center is a STEM center, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And Sibongile spoke about this 3D printing. Here we are using 3D printing to assist people in modeling, particularly women, in terms of their businesses. To use science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to enable them to become more successful. At the same time, when this COVID pandemic hit, we released at least 10 to 12 different versions of our solution sets free of charge to communities. And I'll place some of those on the chat, and Kim, you can pass that on. Some of these may have changed because we did this around March last year. And again, for the benefit of women to use some of these tools. We've also been behind and supporting sort of gender justice matters, because these things permeate. If you do something around gender justice with the focus on women, of course, with this 4IR, as we mentioned, permeating all aspects, you see this connectivity. And in February last year, we hosted a massive conference just before the onset of COVID in South Africa, in Cape Town, where I had global activists. And Cindy, we were very fortunate to have Dr. Olive Shisana join us, the president's social advisor at that particular engagement. And coming out of that, once again, was the need and the drive and also the emphasis to ensure that women have more access to tools in business. Now, I'm mindful that I have limited time, but I do want to emphasize a few other topics on this technology. Now, there's an organization in Nigeria called WARIF, WARIF, and basically it's Women, at Risk International Organization. And what we've done there is we've utilized our software with you would call them, what would the terminology be? Let's say people were responsible for delivering babies in the community, right? We're able to give them that software, and through that process, women in communities in Nigeria are able to report anonymously issues of gender-based violence, issues of being prevented into getting into business opportunities. And our software, we donated that software to WARIF, and earlier this year as well, President Ramaphosa, as well as people in his team, including Dr. Shisana, were involved in launching the gender-based fund, the private sector gender-based fund. So as SAP, we gave a lot of access to our networks to the presidency on this. Personally, I was also responsible for getting my good friend Forrest Whitaker to make a message for South Africa around this, because he's doing some fantastic work in Uganda and also in Cape Town around these issues. Now, I should then touch on three other issues, three other sort of programs which are of potential benefit to the women that may be listening out there. We believe in an integrated approach. So younger, children and youth, then having programs for sort of university age individuals or higher education individuals, and then those who might be mature women. So on the side of, bridging the digital divide, again, a terminology that's been bashed to death, but I will call it a process of digital literacy. We have this program called Africa Code Week program. And essentially, the program was launched around 7 years ago. We went rapidly from about 80,000 kids to 4 to 5 million kids a year that we train on coding. And we can train you on that as well in 40 minutes. After an hour of training kids on coding, then I say, now you understand the fourth industrial revolution, because you understand how code can be utilized to develop programs which can be used to fight challenges in the societies that you find yourself. And that program has rapidly accelerated. Some of the kids in the early days we had for older kids were able to write a program like a WhatsApp program. Now, you may be looking at me and thinking, but will every single person become a coder and work for a technology company? That's not the point. The point is to understand what technology can do for you in business and how you can utilize that to go further. Then the other program that we have is the Young Professional Program. And I'm very proud to say that this program, it's a global program now. It emanated out of South Africa. We used to call it, the Skills for Africa program. And what we essentially do there, and we put a focus on women, Black African women, in terms of their participation. We predefine 2 years of a job space for the individual. So it's not just some mambo jumbo thing that you see happening. We call these bush colleges. They give you some kind of nonsense and they take money from people. And I'm deadly against that. So we identify through our customers and our partners job spaces and the demand for our software solutions. And we put these young people who are selected, highly weighted on disadvantaged Black African we take them through a program which is, it could be anything between $150,000 to $200,000 in the 6-month period. It's a highly pressurized thing. They come out of that. And what we say is, if we empower you with what we call a gold standard certification, because that SAP certification, whether you are in Malta, in the Mediterranean, or in Australia, or you're in the US or Africa, anywhere in Africa, it's valid. And we give you 2 years employability. Then it's up to you. You've got to prove beyond the 2 years that you're worth it, that they should be able to retain you. Do you agree? So that's a job creation program, and it's still very much available. And then lastly, I'd like to touch on something which is very close to my heart. And, Chris Hani was a great activist in Africa, and he said, there'll never be justice unless there is social justice. Right? We saw what happened in the States with George Floyd. And as SAP, we took this very, very seriously in terms of our African-American colleagues that were there. And after a period of time as Global Corporate Social Responsibility, a program was created called the SAP Pro Bono Social Equity Program. And essentially that program will focuses now and was launched at the beginning of this year in the United States on small, medium enterprises of people of African origin with an emphasis on women and as well as social enterprises. And whilst we will make a massive announcement in due course about what we're going to do, because that program will come to South Africa, we eventually were able to convince colleagues both locally and globally to bring such a program to South Africa. And please look out for further information around this that we'll put out to the media and otherwise, where our employees, and we have the best, in my view, the best people in the world, the 100,000 people. We make our employees available to these SMMEs that are selected, and we essentially give them consultants on a pro bono basis to work on them in areas of marketing, strategy, communication, technology, in terms of outlook, how to increase their business capabilities, how to increase profitability, how to develop a growth mindset. And that program is coming to South Africa soon, and hopefully in the future it will be rolled out to other parts of Africa. Do I have another minute, Kim? Just talk about one other program that we have, because it's vital for women, and it's something that we do from the bottom of our hearts.
1 more minute, Mr. Sunil.
1 minute, okay. And then the last program where we have placed a lot of effort on women and focus on women is our SAP Social Sabbatical Program. So what we do there, we have our top talent, and about 1% of this top talent is selected for this program. And we look at NGOs and social enterprises, again, focusing largely on women leaders in there, and impact on women and girls in society. And we offer our employees in batches of 4 for a month to these organizations around October. It first started off in China. We had it in India, South Africa, and Brazil. And of course, we have extended that. We've had a few iterations here in South Africa. We extended it to the rest of Africa. Again, women organizations have been at the benefit of that. And lastly, we have software donations, which is quite a complicated process, but as I said, we release some of the software free of charge. I'll put this on the chat group, and maybe I should pause there and I've got tons of other things to say, but I do realize there are many more eloquent speakers that you'd like to hear from. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sunil. That was wonderful. I feel very passionate about a few points that you raised, and I'm actually so inspired to hear that you guys have been on the ground doing the work and making an impact in the lives of women, in the lives of young boys, in the lives of young business owners, in the lives of people across the world. It's very inspiring, and thank you so much for that. So as we are here with the Circle of Global Business Women, our complete strategy today and our complete outcome is to look at a way forward that can empower, that can give opportunities, that can give solutions for women in business, for young women, for girl children, in order to foster a creative platform for them to be able to participate effectively in economies and economy as well. So our next session is going to be focused on looking at solutions from this exact panel, from our organizations, looking at what we currently do and looking at what we feel should be done in order to achieve the outcomes we have in our minds, in our hearts, and in the mandates of our organizations and our different organizational bodies. So I'm going to just give a highlight. I think the areas that we need to look at for complete impact in the global sphere of women's lives and women in business, we need to look at policy, we need to look at skills development, we need to look at opportunities for leadership. I'm very passionate about this one because as somebody in the telecom space, it's very difficult sitting in a boardroom full of men who really ask you whether you know what you're doing without saying much. And you have to perhaps scream a bit louder and say a bit more in order to be taken seriously. So I'm very passionate about women leadership in male-dominated industries, and we need to find ways to close that gap. And I also feel the other area we need to look at is access to information, access to opportunities, basically creating access. We're not going to solve the world's problems in a day, but however, Mr. Sunil did say he's quite, he does not like the coined phrases such as bridging the digital divide and the 4IR. And I believe it's because they are overused and we don't see enough results. We keep talking about them. We keep talking about them. So the next session we're having right now, I would like to hear from our speakers. In these areas, perhaps you could pick one, a suggested solution based on your experience, based on what you maybe currently do, that we can look at, collaborating on in order to create the future we seek and in order to empower women in business, as well as, give women the platforms that they need to participate meaningfully in the economy. I think this time I'm going to start with Me Angie Maloka. Me Angie, if you could perhaps introduce yourself and maybe give us, your view on the solutions that we can create through collaboration moving forward. I think Ms. Angie just needs to be unmuted. Maybe if the tech team can assist.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon to all the participants in this seminar, and I really appreciate the invitation, and also excited about the conversations that are happening now. Because MTN has got its own foundations or CSI units in different countries where MTN has got a presence in about 22 countries. So my input will be around the work that we've done in South Africa as a foundation. And because our responsibility is to uplift communities and use technology as an enabler as far as possible. But we know that there are situations where technology won't be able to assist, especially when people are hungry or when they don't have transport to go to school, so that we do provide support to such initiatives. But looking at what you were saying, Kim, I think as a foundation, our mandate also from our group companies that we look at youth and women empowerment. And we do that through two main programs, which is education and youth and women empowerment entrepreneurship programs. And we do that in schools, in universities, and for small businesses, specifically in the ICT space, because that's where MTN as a company operates. And over the years, just to summarize, is that pre-COVID, we've been focusing on the three areas like I've outlined, which is in schools, in universities, and in the community. But I'll hone in more on the the university program, because that's where we also run a challenge as MTN. We have partnered with an organization called Inectors. They are present in about 26 universities. And I think if you've been a student recently at the university, you'll know about that. And what we introduced what we call an ICT, the MTN ICT challenge. And through the challenge, we encourage young people to come with an idea that uses a technology-based solution or an app to provide a solution for a problem identified in the communities, either in health, education, or agriculture, because we believe those are the core. And what we do, they go through when they are selected, they go through a course where they get supported on ideation, using the Canvas methods, all those business tools that you help people to design a digital solution. So to cut a long story short, we've had we started in 2029 with that program. As we speak, we've got 6 companies that are fully functional, registered, and they are run by students. And they've given amazing solutions for students. But what is sad is that amongst those six, there are no girls. The girls did enter the competition, but they did not go through until the ideation phase of the program. And also recognizing the impact of COVID, we used to meet the students, our teams used to meet physically, and now we know with COVID the universities were closed, there were no the physical contact, so we had to work with our partners and use a digital platform. And we are glad to say for this year, I'm fast forwarding, we've got about 15 companies that have been registered. And amongst the solutions that were developed previously, they worked very well during COVID, is an app that is called Easy to Queue. It works within a community in Khayelitsha, where these young people have hired other young people to queue for people at the clinics, in the supermarkets. Because of COVID, remember, all elderly people were scared to go to the shops, so they used these apps to queue for them. And then when they were just about to get there, they'll call, send a text, then they'll come. And then what's unique about this initiative is that all these young people, they use MTN's capabilities. I'm not sure if people are aware that MTN has got a mobile money app, a platform, and we call it Momo, MTN Momo. So they use that to transact for payment. And we also have got a similar platform to WhatsApp, we call it Ayoba. So those are the capabilities that these young entrepreneurs are utilizing. I think just to summarize is to say, we need to provide opportunities and support. And I would like to talk more on the skills development, because yes, policy, we do need policy, but policy does not always translate into action. But when we focus, and because we don't have time, the unemployment rate in our country is like a time bomb. So we need to come with practical and quick interventions that are going to, within a very short time, upskill our young people, and especially women. In summary, I've got a lot to say, but I know time is not on our side.
Thank you so much, Ms. Angie. We have, this topic is so broad and it's so wide and it's filled with so much substance. It's very difficult to get through it in an hour, absolutely difficult. But thank you so much, Ms. Angie, for that. Now, to our speakers, we have 2 minutes each to give a solution that, is burning in our hearts, or a solution that we have on the ground that, can offer opportunities to collaborate in order to solve the problems that we have. I just want to give a note. According to the World Economic Forum 2020 Global Gender Gap Report, only 26% of professionals in data science and artificial intelligence roles in sub-Saharan Africa are women. And of course, this gap is definitely, factored in by skills, a lack of skills, definitely factored in by the lack of opportunities. So looking at bridging, such gaps, 2 minutes from each speaker, please. And I will start with Ms. Cindy, our president. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. This is really exciting. I mean, listening to Mom Angie, listening to my dearest sister Amy, listening to our sister Joshna, listening to our brother Sunil. This is very powerful because collaboration. This is very important. We have realized as a sector of global business women, we can't develop our women alone, but we need private sector, we need government. And one solution that I'm putting onto the table, if SAP can actually work with the sector of global business women and MTN and the French South African Chamber of Commerce to come up with one app that will be able to be a solution to women and girls in South Africa, in Africa, to solve the challenges of COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cindy. That was short and sweet. Thank you. The Youth ICT Council will definitely jump on board with that app, as well as, we are currently also working with telcos to train young people on 5G technology. And we're currently in partnership as well with the Gauteng eGov, and our focus is going to be looking at young women, training them, upskilling them, and offering them opportunities for actual employment. So thank you very much for that, Ms. Cindy. Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Joshna for her 2-minute idea.
So I'd like to actually touch on artificial intelligence. Everyone's going on about how artificial intelligence is actually going to take away jobs. It's going to take away so much, but I think we need to start looking at it in another way and actually start using training as a method of actually reinventing and repurposing jobs within South Africa. So for me, I'd like to offer, I've developed a coaching, mentoring, and training platform that we could possibly use and collaborate either with MTN or with Mr. Sunil to take this into the forefront, and with our president, Ms. Cindy. So that is something that I think would actually start solving the problem of upskilling and reskilling in South Africa and globally, hopefully.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joshna. That's absolutely exciting. I'm so excited, collaboration happening in real time on a webinar. I always shy away from conferences because I feel we've spoken about this before. What are we actually doing? So I'm excited that we'll be able to check in maybe in a few weeks, in a few months, and see the actual impact that we've made. Looking at collaboration, so we are publishing a book that is co-authored by 80 young Africans. And this book is being published by the Africa 80, which I'm a part of as well. And, that's one of the ways that we are collaborating to see transformation on the African continent. We have not met, most of us have not met, but it's 80 young people that came on board and said, look, we're going to contribute and write articles about our fields, our challenges, and the solutions that we have to solve the problems in our own countries. Collaboration is absolutely exciting, and it is the way forward. Ms. Amy, may I have your idea, please, or your solution, rather?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I think from my side, obviously we're a chamber, so we're facilitators. So we like to put the spotlight on our companies and support them. So I think, there's many solutions that are required across different fields. So I'll just touch on two that I think are quite poignant and a good starting point to get this conversation going and get these solutions happening. So first and foremost, if we look at, of course, I think Cindy and I had a very long conversation about primary education the other day, but I think one company that's doing it quite right and that we can take some inspiration from is it's a company called Flip10 Technologies. It's a startup studio, and they have an initiative with the Kgalema Mokantle Foundation called AI in Africa. So essentially what they do are these boot camps. I think it's for young girls aged 16 to 18 across South Africa in different townships. And essentially what they do is they take them through this boot camp. So it's not only giving them expertise in AI and coding, but what they're also looking at is the whole process. So from creative design thinking, I think they have a partnership with the Greenside Design School, to getting mentoring in entrepreneurship, how to pitch business skills as well. And I think that's a very, very important thing. It's not only is that impacting, young women, training, upskilling, getting them familiar and normalized into the STEM field, but really as well, it is more interdisciplinary. And I think that is something very, very important. That can also, we can take a book from the leaf of what's happening in the digital marketing space as well. I'm definitely no marketing expert, but if we look at, the role of big data, and it's very, very important as well, but particularly in South Africa, you see these trends now, and I think that's a good thing. Is really that human touch as well. We can talk about having data, but you need that human element alongside it, that creativity, particularly because if we look at the bottom line of companies these days, is sustainability. How to make your company sustainable. And that's a big thing to market as well. So if we incorporate that, I think that's a good way to look at it. So sort of approaching it from a science and art kind of perspective, particularly when we are talking about sustainability and appealing to, whether you're selling a product, whether you're selling a service, which is what we are doing as businesses or as entrepreneurs, it's how do we appeal to that element of a customer? In the marketing space, it could be in one of our vernacular languages rather than just dominated by English, or it could be, so I think those are very, very important things to start thinking about. Education and skills primary. Second to that as well, I was privileged to attend as a speaker at an event with the head of UN Women in South Africa, or in Southern Africa, and they have an initiative at the moment which I think utilizes technology but addresses a current need, particularly of women. So I think the program is called it's called Gender Responsive Procurement. So essentially what they do is identify procurement opportunities and match them for women-owned enterprises to help them. And that is all run through a digital platform. So I think those are really two great examples, one in the education space, and two, the other in utilizing these digital practices to really give information to women. And along that, of course, comes a lot of advocacy for the UN, how to make sure there's incentives for women to be included in this economy. But really, I think those two are a good starting point of how we should go about maybe thinking about it and the different types of ways of approaching it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you very much for that input. Absolutely inspiring work. So I do believe that we talk a lot about our problems, but we don't really delve into the success stories of the people working on the ground and actually making moves to make impact in the lives of young people, business people, entrepreneurs, in South Africa and at the world at large. So that is very inspiring. Thank you so much, Amy. And last but not least, my colleague at the Youth ICT Council, Ms. Sibongile, please give us your solution in 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, colleague. I would also agree with Ms. Joshua. I think it's time that we actually enhance or embrace the importance of the usage of artificial intelligence and also upskilling, because currently, as the research is showing, globally, we are sitting with 30% of females in STEM. When it comes to research and science technology, we don't have much females. So there's, as a universal challenge, we are faced with lack of mentors and also lack of role models when it comes to the field of STEM. So it would be great to see the National Youth ICT also be in partnership with Ms. Joshua and also the MTN Foundation, as well as Mr. Sype, because we also use like your software to actually create these 3D modeling. So it would be a good partnership. And also as the Youth ICT as well, as much as one has the capabilities and also the skills to actually use these advanced technologies, which is your laser cutter and the 3D printing, it will be great to also pass on this and transfer the skill and also assist other young females. Because I think if I have to look in my own township from Soweto, I think I'm the only female who actually do this producing of these prosthetic limbs using this advanced technology. So it would be great to also see other young people that I actually would be doing that. As also part of Ugohamba, we are also hiring young people and we are actually training them as well to use these advanced technology. So that's my solution. Can we actually have more mentorship programs? And also let's groom especially females when it comes to science, because one way or the other, science and technology, it is solving the crucial and also we are able to actually build tangible solutions using these technologies. Even with COVID-19, it has also shown, it has also been proven. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sibongile. I am fired up. I am completely full, and I am absolutely excited. I come from a rural area in the Free State, absolutely rural. And you know, when you go back home to your community, you find that the gaps are exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Whatever we knew was a social ill before is just exaggerated now. And you know, the levels of inequality, the levels of poverty, the levels of lack of access increased completely, or rather they were boldened and highlighted, the levels of GBV. So to hear these solutions coming from bright minds, great organizations that are already on the ground and open to collaboration is absolutely exciting. I do believe that we will make an impact in skills development, we'll make an impact in entrepreneurship training, we will make an impact in complete holistic training and training of the person, of the mind, of wellness, of mindfulness. And we will be able to create platforms for meaningful participation in the economy for women in business, starting from young women, you know, all the way up. And if I may give a bit of a solution that I think is a solution. So currently what we are doing, we've got a STEM platform, a STEM education platform that is interactive for children to be able to learn STEM education in creative ways. I mean, we played gaming consoles when we were younger, and there's no need to make science boring. So we've created a platform that has games, that has fun activities for, you know, children in school from primary to high school to learn STEM skills. And through this platform, we have an opportunity to send postcards to space and bring them back to these young students, you know, as a way of opening them up to STEM education, opening them up to space exploration, and opening them up to the endless possibilities of technology. 4IR is not tomorrow, it's not the future. The new normal is not still coming. In fact, we have to find ways to leapfrog our growth, particularly as a country, as well as a continent. So I am very excited about these solutions. Thank you very much. I do believe that after this webinar, we will have a meeting and we will be able to find ways to collaborate to make these happen. And to everybody watching at home, I hope you follow the Circle of Global Business Women very closely to see the kind of work and the kind of impact that is made, you know, for the months and the years to come. Thank you so much. I think right now, what we can then do is give Ms. Joshna a moment to give us a vote of thanks. Thank you very much, Ms. Joshna.
Thank you, Kim. Honorable Ms. Cindy Mzamo, our President of the Circle of Global Business Women, Ms. Kim Petuli, the National Youth ICT Council, Mr. Sunil Guinness, the Director in Global Government Affairs and CSR, Global Sustainable Lead, SAP Africa, Chairperson of the South African BRICS Deregulation Working Group, Ms. Sibongile Mokhadi, the 4IR Committee, the Chair of the National Youth ICT Council, Ms. Amy Ashworth, the General Manager of FSACCI from the French Embassy, Ms. Angie Maloka, the Senior Manager of the MTN Foundation, and it's just been my honor and my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks for this webinar based on the fourth industrial revolution of business during and after COVID-19 through innovation and mindfulness. I would like to thank our President, Ms. Cindy Mzamo, for highlighting the gender-based violence and the poverty that is struck in our rural areas and the solutions that we need to come around to actually start correcting and actually start closing the gaps of gender using 4IR. I'd also like to thank Ms. Kim Petuli, our facilitator, who's got such amazing programs with STEM, trying to enhance women in the field and just trying to get more women into in position in corporates, etc., and educating them. I'd also like to thank Mr. Sunil, with all the fantastic programs, not only addressing women, but boys as well, which I think is so, so important, you know, for role modeling them, and all the fantastic programs that they are putting out to close the gap, not only for empowering women, empowering boys, but also, you know, addressing the unemployment rate in our country that we're currently facing. And then also the skills that they are now providing, and that not only to the women, but to our entrepreneurs as well. So really trying their best and working at such a wonderful level to try and uplift everyone. I'd also like to thank Ms. Sibongile for her amazing story and her innovativeness, into you know, the way she's diversified her business model and her structure to survive during COVID. Very inspirational. Thank you very much. Ms. Maloka, Ms. Angie Maloka from MTN, who has given us so much of her programs that they've also done with MTN, also trying to bring women up in 4IR, and hopefully trying to close that gap as well. And then Ms. Amy Ashwood, who spoke about women facing challenges and how policy needs to be addressed and looked at to actually now being women to be inclusive and start using our resources within the space. And also, you know, just touching on how resilient women are and how creative we can become within the space, just given the power to do so through collaboration, and then we see transformation. And then I'd like to I hope I covered everyone. So, you know, I just like to end off with saying that a woman is the full circle within her and the power to create, nurture, and transform. Let us, the Circle Global of Business Women, actually be the catalyst to unleash 4IR, and let us be the highway for transformation. Thank you very much for having this webinar.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joshna. Thank you, everybody, for spending this time with us. We hope that it was fruitful. We hope that you have gained information, you've gained knowledge, and you've gained inspiration as well as courage. Those who want to start businesses, those who've already started businesses and have faced challenges, those who don't know where to go, haven't known where to go for skills development, for opportunities. We hope that this has been fruitful in order to, you know, close some of the gaps that you have had as a person and to meet you at your point of need today. Thank you so much. As Miss Universe said to us, women, we need to take up space. Do so boldly, do so with courage, and do so with strength. Thank you very much.